take a look at the waiver wire targets for Week 10. Florio, take us through who you got.
Carson Wentz, we spoke about him earlier. He's just getting the job done. He's got a good matchup next week. Trey Lance, this was inspired by your tweet, Marcus, but I agree. The Niners, they're falling fast right now. Eventually, I think we see the switch to Lance. Matt Ryan's been playing pretty good ball as of late. Gets a good matchup next week. Devin Singletary, he got more volume. Zach Moss is dealing with a concussion. If Moss is out, I think you could use Singletary next week. Kenyon Drake had 8 targets, so he's been getting more involved. Rhamondre Stevenson there led the Pats in receiving and rushing yards. D'Onta Foreman didn't get a whole bunch of volume, but I think he looked the best of the Titans backs on the ground yesterday. Naheem Hines back in our fantasy life. Jordan Howard there and Devonta Freeman to round out the running backs. We've already spoke about those two guys. And then some receivers and tight ends. Michael Gallup, he could be back next week. If he's been dropped in your league, I say you go grab him. Elijah Moore coming off a huge day. He's the wide receiver 1 so far in Week 9. Rashad Bateman, I'm going to keep saying it until his roster percentage increases. He's been getting consistent volume. Brandon Ayuk, he's back in our fantasy lives. Marcus, Van Jefferson is someone that I know that both of us have been excited about. Donovan Peoples-Jones, DPJ playing the new role of OBJ there in Cleveland. Deshaun Jackson now with the Vegas Raiders. And then some tight ends. Tyler Conklin, Dan Arnold, and Adam Trautman. All three have been getting some more consistent volume. And I think, volume is really all you need to be a tight end on the waiver wire list heading into to Week 10 right now.
Yeah, pretty much. If you if you can lace them up and run a handful of routes, you too can be a waiver wire tight end in fantasy football this year. Going to be interesting. Some definite, I think, interesting names to pick up off the waiver wire. Michael Gallup coming back excites me because I have him stashed in multiple leagues, and I'm just excited to have a chance to at least consider him for my lineup again in the near future. Couple of names of note there to kind of hit on, though. One, Rhamondre Stevenson, and we have sort of gone back and forth between he and Brandon Bolden for the last few weeks, but I'm getting the sense that one guy is starting to take over. As producer Justin said to us, is it Stevenson Seasonson? I said it right. I didn't think I was going to do it.
You got
right,
it.
But, thanks. I got it right. So that's the question, though. Is it Rhamondre Stevenson Seasonson now?
I hope so. I can't say yes with confidence because the Patriots have been using their backup running backs weird. I mean, it was only 2 weeks ago that I came out and I was like, Brandon Bolden is the new James White, and it looked that way, but until yesterday again when they started to get Stevenson more involved. I think this is something the Patriots have actually got wrong this year. I think Stevenson is their most explosive runner outside of maybe Damian Harris, but he is definitely more explosive than Brandon Bolden, and this is an offense that is void of any explosiveness. Like, you have a bunch of possession receivers. You need someone who could, take a short pass and break it like we just see on the screen there, and Stevenson can do that. So I would be grabbing him off the waiver wire. I think he has a lot of upside. I'm not sure you could trust him just yet, but I think the upside, if he starts to get consistent volume, especially in the passing game, makes him worth taking a flyer on right now.
So we were sort of saying Brandon Bolden is James White 2.0. The talk before the season is that Rhamondre Stevenson was LeGarrette Blount 2.0. We'll see who wins out here, but I'm with you. I think he's the guy that has the greater upside. After all these years, we sort of know who Brandon Bolden is. Let's find out who Rhamondre Stevenson is. I think he's a really nice compliment to Damian Harris in the backfield. I would feel better with it. I think he's sort of more of the future, especially for a team that the Patriots aren't rebuilding. They're very much in the race right now in the AFC East, but maybe it's time to turn to some of the younger guys and see what this unit has as a whole and kind of build for the future while you also at the same time sort of play for now. So we'll see if this actually is Stevenson's time, but it would be sort of nice to have a little bit of that clarity. The other one, and you mentioned it, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I jokingly tweeted, DPJ greater than OBJ. I don't necessarily mean that. It's just jokes, people. It's Twitter. That's what happens. But he did step up and play really well. And it was a big win for the Browns on Sunday. So does this mean he's the answer? Should we grab him and plug him in, expecting to get the production we were hoping from Odell Beckham?
I'm not ready to say he's the new Odell yet, but I do think he is worthy of grabbing off the waiver wire. I think he's a little bit of a deeper wide receiver target. I don't love that he saw just 3 targets in this game, but it was a game where the Browns didn't really throw a whole lot. Their only player with more than 3 targets was Jarvis Landry, who had 5. So DPJ played the second most snaps amongst their receivers. I do think he is the new starting receiver opposite of Jarvis Landry. He's going to get some deep shots. I just think the volume is going to make him a little bit, and the fact that Baker Mayfield is up and down week to week is going to make him a bit of a boom or bust option each week. But he is definitely someone that, if I'm going a little bit deeper at receiver this week on the waiver wire, that I'm interested in grabbing.
I would definitely add him, I think, as a depth add. Side note, when I was thinking about the Browns game from yesterday, it made me think of, and I don't know if you've seen this floating around on social media, there was a graphic called the Baker Mayfield cycle, where it says, play like crap, for lack of a better term, which goes to criticized by media, which goes to underdog mentality, which goes to beat inferior opponent, which goes to call out doubters. And then we start back over at play like crap again. So I think we are at the, I guess, beat inferior opponent, perhaps moment right now after what we saw on Sunday. And then that leads to call out doubters, which then inevitably leads us back to Baker playing like crap again.
The thing is, Baker didn't even play good yesterday. The rest of the Browns play like Baker didn't play bad, but they had a pick six. Nick Chubb had a long touchdown run. Like, come on.
But it's like, then it's going to be like, hey, maybe Baker's ready to lead this team again, and they're not, they don't have distractions and blah, blah, blah. And then, Baker will go out and throw for like $180 and like a touchdown with 2 picks, and we'll be like, what's happening? So, because that's just how it works. All right. Over to the top targets, though, waiver wire wise for week 10. If you have the top priority, or if you're going to, spend a chunk of your fab budget, where is it going this week?
For me, it would be Michael Gallup if he is available on your waiver wire roster. He's available in about a little bit over half of NFL.com leagues. I checked other sites. He's still available in over half on them as well. So he's widely available right now. Michael Gallup is kind of a forgotten man, Marcus, because he played week 1. He had the 7 targets, but then he got hurt, and we haven't seen him since. It's been 2 months now. We kind of just picture, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, but Michael Gallup is still a strong downfield receiver. He's a good contested catch option. I think he could be a presence in the red zone on this high-powered Cowboys offense. I think you do have to monitor the usage each week because they have legitimately 4 good receivers if you count Dalton Schultz, and then you add Zeke in and out of the backfield. So a lot of mouths there to feed. But I think Gallup is a really talented player. If he's already rostered, though, then I would pivot to Elijah Moore as my top pickup of the week.
Both those guys, Elijah Moore playing really well the last couple of weeks. Michael Gallup, a guy that, we want parts of the Cowboys passing game. And that's why I've always sort of liked him and wanted to draft him. Hopefully he can move past Cedric Wilson on the depth chart, and he's not battling there for snaps and targets, but I think he's a name that's worth adding. I'm going to go with Jordan Howard just because he's rostered in only 2.2% of NFL.com leagues. Methinks that number is going to go up significantly after this week because the guy has got 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games, a combined 128 rushing yards in those 2 games. He's combined for over 30 fantasy points. What I'm saying is the dude's been a top 20, top 25 running back the last couple of weeks at a time of the year when we need running back help. I mentioned earlier in the show that it looks like his role in the offense may become more permanent. So even when Miles Sanders is back, maybe they're using Jordan Howard down near the goal line and giving him that touchdown upside. So if you haven't already gotten on the Jordan Howard hype train, this feels like the time to do it because it's taking off and there may not be too many more chances for you to jump on there. Who would have thought in 2021 we'd be talking about Jordan Howard as a thing? It's amazing.
Do you think next week when everyone starts Jordan Howard, it's going to be like Boston Scott going off and we're going to hit for the Eagles running back cycle?
Oh yeah, no, it'll be Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell next week. Like that will be it. Like because everybody's going to be on Jordan Howard, and then it's just not going to work out for us. That's what coaches do to us, apparently.